Yeah. One thing that I've learned is at a young age, and this is what I've been doing at the schools, career advice. But what I have been finding, especially with the younger kids, that just that tasting water from different sources, you see it in their eyes. They're just like, whoa. The mouths haven't been manipulated with stronger drinks. So when they're tasting these waters, it's very abundant that every water is different. Then you give it a little sprinkling of geology, geography, the terroir. What influences that water to have those different minerals and from the source that it's from? So what we've got is we've missed this whole element. We've been taught about the water cycle, but what happens to the water when it lands back onto the earth and then picks up the different minerals from the geology that it's forming from? And once you start teaching kids that, it's like, oh wow, you can throw in the mythical legends by the springs, because that's always been discussed in history. Um, indigenous people, how they respected the waters, teaching that method, it really encourages them to dive deeper into water's just not like water. It's magical, it's medicine, it sustains us. It's got so much to give to us, but we're still categorizing it as, hey, it's just water, it comes out of the tap, it's abundant. But, as we're aware globally, there's so many issues in regards to water supply that need to be addressed. And the only way I believe this can be done is capturing it at a young age, to look at water in a different way. And all it takes is 10 to 15 minutes and it clicks in their brain to a long life of respecting water and helping others to gain access to water and sanitation.
Hello and welcome to Speaking from Water, episode 44. I'm here with Milin Patel. He is one of the world's greatest water sommeliers. And if you don't know what that is, it is something that brings you to the higher level of consciousness when tasting water. We all taste water. We all don't know how to enjoy water effectively and properly. Some do this with wine, others do it, say, with liquor, but we all drink water every day, and it is so important for us to taste water properly, know where we know where it has come from, and we have the guy here today to do it with us. Milin, thank you so much for joining us. I've been anxiously awaiting this talk with you for a long time. I've watched all your material. I've tasted the water afterwards, and it is super exciting to be with you.
Wow, Sean, thank you for the warm welcome, for real. I'm super excited about this one. Again, I've seen some of your material, and behind the scenes of what I've been doing, this crossover, real good knowledge to share a drinking water lifestyle, a drinking water culture for your listeners, and hopefully they can spread the word. So yeah, let's get into it.
And before we really get going here, how is the water weather today in England? What have you been doing? What's going on in the UK, where you're joining us from?
Yeah, for real. Today I was in the financial district, Canary Wharf. Typical British weather today. It was just grey and rainy. But you know what Bob Marley says? Some people feel the rain, others just get wet. I feel it. I love it when it rains. It's great. So yeah, standard day in London today. So I'm back home for this podcast in time, beat the traffic. So yeah, good day. It's a very blessed day.
Epic, man. And it's so good to have you here. And you have a deep passion for water, like I do, like so many of our listeners. Where does your deep passion for water come from? What is the root?
Yeah, of course. So from a young age, where I live, just outside of London, we've got all of the largest water storage reservoirs. These reservoirs are massive. I've got the River Thames, I've got the River Ember, I've got the River Mole that flows through where I live. I live about a 10-minute walk from the River Thames. growing up on the water, fishing, kayaking, whatever it was, I was just connected. And I just thought, this is what I want to do as a career. But growing up with a passion of water was not cool. So, it's it's just what I've wanted to do from a young age, and it's kind of defined my career and who I am.
And was it initially the like, how was your schooling? Were you did you
Yeah.
were you attracted to the sciences?
Yes, 100%. Science for me was a big thing. Geography was a big thing. So my schooling was here in the UK, but then when I was around 12, I ended up moving out to California literally the next day, like a family situation occurred. I was with my crew here literally the next day. I was in Rancho Cucamonga, just outside of Orange County, LA, so up the foothills. So I did middle school there, and then I ended up in Florida. So I did a high school up to my sophomore year, and then come back to the UK. So have we frozen?
No, we're not frozen. But let me pause for a second. And how's your internet connection looking?
Okay. Yeah, connection at home is good. Yeah, full.
All right, I've just switched mine to a different setting, so we'll see if that's me. Are you still with me? You've frozen now. There we are. Are we good now? You're good.
I can't see. Oh, there you are. Yeah.
All right. 10, check 1, check 2. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Sorry about that. So your trip to California, that's such an extreme place, and California has such a unique culture of its own. How was that striking as a young man to you, coming from Great Britain to LA? That is a very unique experience.
Yeah, for real. The first thing that I remembered, like things were dry, and I couldn't get over the fact that they had like these flood storage reservoirs, and these were all just empty, dry. And I was like, damn, they do not have water. And I'm talking about 92, 93. And I couldn't get it out of my head. I was like, we've got Big Bear Mountain at the top there, looking down, but the storage of water wasn't there. And they had like concrete canals to divert the water, dry again. And I'd always be mesmerized of, when will I see water in these canals? And sometimes I'd take a trip into like downtown LA, see the LA River. Again, what was like massive ravine, man-made, just a little trickle going through such an immense city. I just couldn't get my head around it. Like, from seeing the River Thames to the minimal water flowing through cities in California, like LA and outside of LA. So yeah, but then on the contrast, landing in Florida, very lush subtropical climate, Lake Okeechobee, Lake Topeka, plenty of water, rain in all types of forms. So it's a very different contrast, and this is what really energized me to think, right, this is my career, this is what I want to do. Yeah.
And what part of your schooling was that? Because it seems like you were in California at a young age. You're already looking at the water super passionately as to where it's coming from. Most kids, they're not thinking in these terms. I'd like to kind of know, like, what was it about it, and then when did you decide, like, I'm going into the water business?
Yeah, of course. So I did my schooling up to like my varsity year in Florida, and then I ended up coming back to the UK. And then I just continued with my studies at Queen Mary's University in environmental science, with a little bit of law, but I had to keep on chopping and changing because there wasn't a dedicated water science module. So I was doing like the business, I was doing the environmental law, I was doing geography, I was doing biological sciences, chemistry, just to get that water fix from each of those modules. So in a way, it was pretty tough to get something that was just very water centric. So that was my schooling, and then I completed some modules at Cranfield University here in the UK, which is one of the large water science schools, which was really good. And you know the way this world works, right? I did a piece with the BBC Science at Cranfield, some media work just 2 weeks ago. So it was just like a full 360, like Dr. Peter Jarvis, Dr. Francis Hazard, the heads of that. They were like, "Wow, welcome back. We love what you're doing." It's so yeah. I think the educational element for water, man, this needs to step it up. Like for real, what we're taught in schools at the moment is just not enough to create the future of engineers, lawyers, advocates, policymakers, everybody that needs to be involved to make sure water is still flowing through our towns, our communities, in a sufficient way. Yeah.
And tell us, what are the key points and principles when you walk into these schools to really open people's minds up, to initiate them to your large concepts and points here, because they're vital to the survival of civilization?
Yeah. One thing that I've learned is at a young age, and this is what I've been doing at the schools, career advice, but what I have been finding, especially with the younger kids, that just that tasting water from different sources, you see it in their eyes. They're just like, whoa, the mouths haven't been manipulated with stronger drinks. So when they're tasting these waters, it's very abundant that every water is different. Then you give it a little sprinkling of geology, geography, the terroir. What influences that water to have those different minerals and from the source that it's from? So what we've got is we've missed this whole element. We've been taught about the water cycle, but what happens to the water when it lands back onto the earth and then picks up the different minerals from the geology that it's forming from? And once you start teaching kids that, it's like, oh wow, you can throw in the mythical legends by the springs, because that's always been discussed in history. Indigenous people, how they respected the waters, teaching that method, it really encourages them to dive deeper into water's just not like water. It's magical, it's medicine, it sustains us. It's got so much to give to us, but we're still categorizing it as, hey, it's just water, comes out of the tap, it's abundant. But, as we're aware globally, there's so many issues in regards to water supply that need to be addressed. And the only way I believe this can be done is capturing it at a young age, to look at water in a different way. And all it takes is 10 to 15 minutes and it clicks in their brain to a long life of respecting water and helping others to gain access to water and sanitation.
And that's really the key point I'd like to start this conversation today on, is the sanitation and just the ability for an individual on the earth to receive clean drinking water, because that's the starting point from my understanding of your talks previous to our conversation, was that there's really no good or bad water. Is the water clean, first of all? Then we can get into the nuance of the taste and where it's from and all the I guess high-minded thoughts regarding the water. But first and foremost, the integrity of the substance and it not having pollutants in it.
Yep, sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, you can give the rabbit just a little bit, okay? Yeah. Like a whole punch of just a little bit. I'm just on a call and we'll catch up after. Cool.
So to our listeners, Milin is a father like I am. He's joining us. It's 6 p.m. GMT. It's the evening time in Great Britain, 1 o'clock New York City, and we're honored that you're taking this time away from good old family time. So
no, for real.
Yeah, bro.
My house is all just, everyone's just cool and just
love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
So just to sort of go back, I get asked this question daily. what is the best water in the world? Yeah, and my answer is wholesome, reliable, clean water from the tap. Imagine life without that. Very difficult. And there's so many people around the world that still do not have access to that. So the whole element of what we're going to be discussing today, exploring, will always reel back to that fact that life without tap water like we're used to in the modern world is a blessing. And if you have access to that within 20 seconds, a tap, you are, in my personal view, one of the luckiest people in the world. You know, there's kids around the world that have to travel, can't even go to school, can't even have a good upbringing, because every day they need to travel just to collect water from probably a contaminated well just to survive. So this is where the narrative sort of goes of what can we do to protect water, but then also to give access, and which is a fundamental right, a human right to water. So that's sort of the goal.
Now, in your other line of work that you do, you are a professional of the transport of water through pipes and systems to make sure that it's clean. Do I have this correctly?
Yeah. So the way I'd like to describe it is the day job that I do as a water consultant, a pretty senior guy in the water world, is if you imagine water flowing through the environment, it will go into a factory to where your food's produced. It will go to a factory where your car's manufactured. It will go into a hospital with immunosuppressed patients. It will go into an energy center. You know, it takes water to create energy, electricity, any type of manufacturing. I look at the water and polish it and condition it so it's perfect for the application, if that makes sense. So
Absolutely. Can you kind of enlighten us to the layman such as myself who doesn't understand the nuance that goes on to get the droplet to come out of the tap? What's the circle of life?
circle of life, yes. So water out of the tap, you know, it will go through a water treatment process. Depending on where in the world you live, there'll be a variety of different stages to clean up that water before it comes out of the tap. So with that, it's, you know, understanding what goes into producing tap water. If you were to take a moment to understand what your local authority is doing or not doing, I personally think it's more of a community, a collective, to now take charge of this and have these conversations of what can we do or what can we influence to have better tap water. You know, there's only a certain, or the same volume of water on this planet since day dot. You know, we may be drinking, you know, the water in my flask here. A T-Rex may have peed it out. You know, and it's the same water. So it's
Can we pause real quick on that point, because that is such a mind-blowing concept that the water on this planet hasn't gone anywhere. It's the same stuff. And can you kind of hone down on that and how that is? Because it's magical.
Yeah, so it's super magical. When you break it down like that, we have the same volume of water. We cannot take water from outer space. The volume of water in our seas, lakes, oceans, ice caps, etc., even underground aquifers, it's been the same since day dot. So it's how we treat this water, because we're never going to get any more. And human use, etc., just daily life, water gets polluted. Water is a great solvent. Water will pick up everything. Whatever we put down the drain, besides our number ones and number twos, water will absorb. So it's, as communities, really respecting, not just dumping everything down the toilet. For example, you have a lot of cases of this. Like, you may have surplus drugs from your Walgreens or something sitting in your cupboard, and most people will just flush that down, get rid of it. But then that goes into the water supply, and that's very difficult to remove. Man-made drugs, etc., is very difficult to remove. And I personally think more investment needs to happen across the world into water treatment plants. I think in the US alone, I think you may have over 80,000 independent water treatment plants, from providing water to big cities to little communities. So not all of them will have maybe the latest tech or the latest filtration. So our guy Travis, he does a great piece on this going around. So if the listeners want to know more, I think Travis is such a great individual of explaining these processes so well.
And that's Travis Loop, and the podcast is Water Loop. We'll have a description down below. I listened to every minute of your podcast you did with Travis, so hopefully we won't be too redundant, but I invite listeners to go check out that podcast. And yeah, it's so informative. So there's different levels then of water treatment plants. So a water treatment plant, say in an affluent area, might be different than one in a non-affluent area. Is that even in a world, a United States country that's the richest in the world?
Yeah, it all depends on who's managing it and who's funding it. The goal is to provide wholesome, clean water, but it could leave that water treatment plant and then enter pipes that haven't been maintained or, over 100 years old. We have that issue here in the UK, with old Victorian pipes, etc. So what my bug is that there's amazing water tech out there. Yeah, but it's very slow to get into the right places at the right time to deal with all of these emerging micropollutants, PFAS, and not even just those. That there are other issues with disinfection byproducts in the water that they identified in the 80s, 90s. So you need to move with the times. The more we pollute, the better technology needs to be to help filter water, so it comes wholesome out of the tap.
How does a person know if their tap water is of high quality?
So, depending on where you live, you could go to your local water utility provider. Like for us here in London, we have Thames Water. You can go onto their website and get the analysis of what the water quality is, and it will give you a full range from chemical, biological parameters of the water. But I'm, here in the UK, it's pretty well regulated. I know Thames Water doesn't get a good press because it's a privatized company. Shareholders take the lion's share without the investment into the infrastructure. However, you need to give a lot of trust into your water utilities. I know, issues in America like Flint, etc. That there has to be such a wake-up call, for everybody. Do not leave it to just the individuals that are supposed to be managing it. It needs to be a community effort. Everybody has a say in regards to what happens to the water and how it's managed that comes out of the tap.
And in your opinion, what is the best manner? Is it a private? Is it a government? In your perfect scenario, who do you think manages the water the best?
Mixed reviews, because there's, in the UK, privatization at first was pretty good, but now, I think it's been 30 years. Now you're seeing the realness of it, of just fat cats wanting to make money and just, yeah. Me personally, it's communities taking control. Communities getting together, understanding the water quality, the water treatment, and driving home what we can do to create sustainable water, stop the leaks in the pipes, because that's just huge. Treated, processed water, which takes a lot of energy, just leaking out of pipes, madness. So it's a very, very complex discussion. But I think if you start with communities respecting water and understanding it a bit better, that's the best way forward, in my professional opinion.
And in your professional consulting world, you've gone to amazing places. Can you tell us about some of the cool spots you've done your work in?
Yeah, of course. my favorite spots are schools. You know, I give up my time for free to go in and do the talks at schools, because that there, it's magical. You know, you have parents emailing going, "Oh, my kids are not interested in fizzy pot of sodas," and that, you know, they're intrigued about water, and you know that's rewarding. But you know, I've managed to have some really cool experiences. I've been in New York twice last year with the World Water Film Festival, and then Science Capital Rethink Water event. And just a quick plug, I think you need to get the World Water Film Festival on this podcast for real.
All right.
But
yeah,
send you a
let's
link.
check it out. Sick.
Been doing that. I've had the International Water Congress in Denmark, provided presentations there, Romania, Spain. Yeah, it's been great. And there's more coming. We're doing a gig with the Bled Water Festival. I'm an advisor to them. So we're doing a gig in South Korea at the end of March. So I've been very humbled with this, but it's been very rewarding, inspiring others, communities, individuals, just to rethink their relationship with water. And you know, this is something that we'll touch on during this. So there's a take-home message for the audience.
All right. Well, should we begin tasting any waters to start some conversation about it?
Yeah, of course.
And
Yeah,
enlighten
of course.
the people as to how to discuss water?
Yeah, of course. We could give them a quick crash course. Definitely.
Awesome.
So, which waters do you have?
Yeah, so here's kind of here's what I have. I have these. I have a selection here of the local tap water. I have Club Soda, Fiji, Evian, Pellegrino.
Oh, boom, boom, boom! Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you pronounce that for me?
Gerolsteiner. It's like,
there we go.
Mother Nature's Red Bull there.
Yes, and I don't believe you have this one, possibly Path, and we got this one because of the high alkaline, and I like some commentary about that. I know what you think about it.
Yeah, of course.
I like enlighten us to it. But what do you think about starting with the tap water? And since we've been talking so much about the tap water, and I kind of want to preface my tap water to you and the audience and the drama surrounding it. So we get our water here in southeastern North Carolina, Wilmington, from the Cape Fear River, and upriver there's a factory that does it's a PFAS central. Like, they're dumping PFAS, and they've been doing it since it was invented in the 70s, and it just became to us as present mind in 2000, and I believe it was 16. And so all these years, people have been consuming lots of PFAS unknowingly. And then when it happened, I was drinking my wife had been drinking tap water her whole life. I was drinking it, our children, and everyone immediately went to bottled water. So I understand from Travis's episode with you that they've installed a system that removes the PFAS, and I haven't done my due diligence in looking into the system. Is there such a system, and does this actually remove the PFAS?
Yeah, so PFAS are very strong bonds, chemical chains, which are very, very difficult to break. So, you know, there are technologies in the market, and the US there's some really cool companies coming out of the US in regards to PFAS control. But, you know, you can filter this stuff out. It's a forever chemical. You filter it, it will accumulate. Yeah. If you, like, say, have an RO filter, okay, it will stick to the filter or stick to the activated granular carbon. Yeah. Where does it go after? So it's these forever chemicals. More research needs to be done, but there are emerging technologies. If they become cheaper, those technologies become more adaptable to water treatment plants. So, you know, there is positiveness from water tech to control this, but you know, these companies that are dumping or have been dumping these chemicals, and it's not just the States. Yeah, I did a PFAS masterclass with Dr. Peter Jarvis at Cranfield University just last year. It's across Europe. We may not be as vocal yet as what's happening in America, and there's some pretty big law firms now getting involved with the 3M, the DuPonts. We're going to be getting that wave, and I've seen some PFAS testing maps across the UK and Europe. It's hot. It's red. Dots everywhere, and higher concentrations at industrial areas, airports are one as well. So, you're not alone, but I believe in America they've been pushing this forward, which is a good thing. So we're learning as well. I think the EPA maybe set some parameters. I don't think they've done that yet in the UK. That's how behind we are.
Interesting.
So,
and you guys are usually environmentally, at least, the forefront of stuff like that. I can imagine that in Africa and China and other spots where there's heavy industry, that there's probably no regulation. And in situations like that, it just gets into the water cycle. And does it just stay as the water does for millions of years? There's
yeah,
PFAS everywhere.
yeah. So people like PFAS, like when people say PFAS in water, yes, water can carry it, but PFAS is everywhere. From your pizza boxes, you get a pizza takeaway, it might have some like PFAS coated materials, to your waterproof tops, etc. It is everywhere, but water is a universal solvent, so it can get into the water, it can get into the soil. It is everywhere, but the nature of water, it picks everything up, negatives, positives.
And I understand you don't or you don't like the plastic bottles. What do you know about plastic shedding into the water in a plastic bottle?
Yeah, so I've done again a masterclass in plastics in water. Yeah, plastics just shear off, and the smaller the particles, they just dissolve into the water in very, very microscopic pieces. So yeah, plastics in soil, plastics in water, it's there. Yeah, it's a pretty big subject, but you need to start understanding the relationship of plastic in our lives, especially for bottled water. And I think I've got a solution that I would like to share with your audience of what I think could be the future looking back at history.
Tell us more.
Yeah, okay. So, plastic and water, yeah? It's a bit like a forced marriage. Doesn't work. You can see all the plastic pollution, especially from bottled water. There's this big thing of plastic, bottled water, shipping. It shouldn't happen. But if I were to show you this, okay? So this is a 150-year-old clay bottle. This was the start of the bottled water industry from Germany, pretty close to where Gerolstein is from. This is Seltzer's, the original name to seltzer water, okay? This bottle here, it's still got its cork, if you can hear that, still got its cork in there, right? This was shipped all around the world to, Central Africa, the Far East, South America, in the 1850s before. 100% recyclable, sturdy, earthenware, affordable. But what happens with clay, and I've been doing a lot of research to this. So check this, right? In civilization, from the Aztecs, the Romans, the Greeks, the Japanese, the Chinese, the British, every culture, every civilization has always used clay to store water, earthenware. Yeah. Water and clay is like a beautiful love marriage, right? The water breathes with the clay, filters the water, and what I love is, depending on where the clay's from, adds this sweetness, this earthiness to the water, which is, for me, extremely enjoyable. So when I go India, and even at home here by my kitchen, have a big earthen pot. So I fill my tap water in there, let that little love marriage happen with the water and the clay for a little while, maybe 12 hours overnight. and then drink that water. I'll tell you, sure, the taste of the water is beautiful. The clay naturally cools the water, so you don't even have to put it in the fridge. But where I'm going with this is that clay and water storage, it's been around for centuries and it's worked. Helped purify the water to a certain extent. But what I see in the new world is all of these beautiful civilizations that have used the clay, they've used specific clays, you know, and these specific clays will have specific minerals. So like if you wanted like an sweet earthy, maybe a like Indian terracotta clay. If you wanted something light and crisp, maybe a Japanese white clay. If you wanted, you know, from the Aztecs, the Incas, they had areas where they would, you know, get the clay and make the pots and the water vessels. So, and a clay pot, one, it's affordable. Two, 100% recyclable. Three, you're not inventing anything new. Civilization has done extremely well with the use of clay. And to be fair, I'll send you a little picture of what I use at home. If you want, it looks beautiful. It's a talking piece. You know, you can customize it, put some great artwork on the clay, whatever, and they last for ages.
Well, what you really got me with was the ability for the human in the present moment to almost time travel hundreds of thousands of years to drink similar tasting water as to the people did at those times by virtue of the kind of clay you source for your water vessel.
100%, 100%. You know, and that clay material is super, super abundant. And I did a media bit with Brazil's national television channel, Record TV, like last week. And I was talking to the journalist and I was explaining the clays. And she was like, everyone in Brazil has a clay pot at home that they use. This is just tradition. This is what, you know, and there's some areas of Brazil where the tap water may not be great, but they have the confidence to put that water into the clay pot, let that beautiful marriage happen and drink the water. And Ayurvedic medicine says like clay can help reduce acidity in the stomach. The minerals from the clay are very good for the body. The taste of it for me is just silky, earthy, sweet, beautiful. It's great. So I think just something for the listeners to think about, you know, the plastic and the water. I've got a little clay cup up here. Jesus, you know, little clay cup. Put your water in it, drink from it. They do water bottles of a similar size of clay, customize them, put beautiful artwork on it. I personally think that is the future. And like in areas where we have good quality tap water, many people still do not drink that tap water and want to put it through a Brita jug of some sort. Yeah, that Brita jug is plastic. The internal you need to dispose of, and they are expensive. My professional opinion, with what I've been trying out, clay, Brita, clay all the way. So understand what your water is coming out of your tap, and then work backwards. You know, it's.
Is there an industry around this right now as far as these sourcing clay water vessels? Is this a thing that I'm missing? Because this is the first time I've heard about it, and it seems like this is all the rage in America right now. The Stanley,
Yeah, I've heard, yeah.
And I see like, look at this Dookie straw, and there's propaganda saying there's lead in here or something. I see a entire movement of sort of clay from different regions of the world, like you were saying, Asia, South America, all with different flavors and branding. Is there not such a thing yet, or is there?
I'm going to put it out there. I'm just one guy, and this is something that I'm working on. I've got a trip out to India at the end of the year where I've been discussing where they've been making these clay pots for such a long time, to sort of understand the soil, the clay. These are all handmade, but it's just something that I'm just working on in the background, day job and everything else. So it's something that I want to bring that education to the people. Yeah, but from what I've done so far, it's exciting. It really is. And people that have been trying the clay waters, the different styles, because I do a lot of presentations at the London Water and Steam Museum. And I will have my clay pot there. And a lot of people are, oh, wow, this is good. You know, just taking your tap water, which here it's of a wholesome, potable supply. When you put it in the clay, it just takes it to another level. So, yeah.
Dude, so huge, so huge. I kind of wanted though, you had me at a high level of interest when you're talking about the deep history of the clay in cultures around the world and the water vessel concept, because they didn't have means of transporting water. Maybe the most elite civilizations with the Greek aqueducts, but
Yeah.
that wasn't everywhere in the world even at that time. And before that, they needed something to put the water in. Can you speak to the earliest forms of the water vessel?
Yeah, it would have to be clay. Yeah. Um, you know, clay maybe wrapped in hemp so it didn't break, things like that. But yeah, the earliest form is clay. Yeah.
And people would, as much as they would need to hunt, people would need to forage for water.
Yes. Yeah. So, you know, touching on that, okay, check this, right? Natural water springs were the pharmacies, okay? You know, now you go down the high street, there's a Walgreens, there's, you know, you take a pill for a headache, a leg ache, whatever it is. But water was more like a medicine. There would be specific springs where people would go for specific ailments. So if you had stomach issues, you'd go to this spring. If you had mental health issues, you'd go to one spring. Right? There was this archaeological dig in New York City, Lower Manhattan. Yeah. And at the time, like the 18 sort of 90s, you know, it was a slum. A lot of immigrants from Europe. But what they were finding as part of this archaeological dig was sparkling bottles of water and a whole bunch of them. And it was only in one community that was coming over from Europe. So, you know, you had the Germans, you had the Swiss, you had the Irish, you had African Americans, all in that lower Manhattan area. But they kept on finding sparkling water bottles in one community only, and that was the Irish. And I'm thinking, well, how could they afford this? Because at that time, sparkling water was the rage. Artificially made sparkling water, sulfuric acid, bit of like, say, marble dust. But what was happening is that when they were leaving Ireland from like the potato famine coming over to New York, living in squalor, it wasn't great. Yeah. A lot of disease. But one thing that they knew back from back home in Ireland was that they had special springs for different ailments and the natural bubbles from Mother Nature at these springs. And it was their connection to the other world. So they couldn't afford to go to the hospitals or anything, but they knew that back home, drinking this sparkling water, naturally occurring sparkling water from the ground, would make them better. So in New York, they couldn't go to the doctor. So they started to drink and make their own sparkling water to pass around the community, knowing that it had that effect back home. It's going to have this effect. And they also found this in San Francisco as well. Just loads of, so that connection of water as medicine, we shouldn't just look at it as water. Natural springs across America as well. Saratoga is a great example of healing springs. Some of these springs had higher mineral content. Some had lithium, you know, very low dose of lithium that would just make you feel good. So looking at water and its minerals within is the key. Don't look at pH. Do not look at pH. You cannot pH regulate your body, man. I'm telling you. But there's an element called total dissolved solids, TDS. And it'll be on the back of all the majority of all the bottles. That's where the magic is in water. Yeah.
And what is the TDS?
Yeah. So TDS will be the accumulation of minerals, calcium, magnesium, silica, bicarbonate, potassium, chlorides, sodium, healthy sodium. You know, that's so a low TDS, I would describe like a light white wine. High TDS, high mineral, like a rich red wine. So you have that spectrum. So if you start from low, it might be light, lower in minerals, and you jump up to a higher TDS, and it'll be like super strong. You'll be able to taste the waters. So that's the beauty of it. If you focus on that, it just opens a beautiful drinking water culture, drinking water lifestyle. You kind of get why you drink water and for what reason. And you know, I have a lot of people contacting me. Oh, I've got headaches, I've got this, I've got that. And, you know, the first thing is, you know, water intake, but then drinking different styles of water with different minerals that your body needs. And what happens is when I do like these water tasting events, some people drink some of these mineral waters, you see it in their eyes, their whole face just lights up. And I'm just looking at them going, and they've drank that mineral water, and the body's just like, oh my God, give me more, give me more. This is good, this is good. And I think one of the waters that you showed me that you have will probably give you that reaction.
Excellent. And we're going to get right to it in a second, but I have a couple more questions here, if I
Yeah,
may.
yeah, yeah.
So is there any mineral in the tap water that's coming out of the tap? Does that water have minerals in it, TDS?
It does, yeah. So depending on your local geology, yeah, there'll be levels of calcium, magnesium, etc. But you know, the tap water goes through some treatments to clean, purify, maybe chlorinate if it has to travel real far. You know, there are communities around the world, yeah, that do not chlorinate, yeah, like the Dutch, yeah, since the 1970s. And I think every water utility, every government needs to take note of what the Dutch have been doing. So since the 1970s, they understood that the byproducts of chlorine were no good. So they stopped chlorinating their water and just looked after the water treatment facility and the pipework. They just went like OG mode on it. And now, like when I go, there is no chlorine in that water. And it's great, it's good, but it can be done. It can be done. So, you know, aging infrastructure, etc., does need it. And chlorine has played a huge role in wholesome, clean, safe water where people don't get sick. Don't get me wrong. But we can learn from others.
And your major point here is the chlorine's not ideal for you. It might take away the bacteria. It's almost a cover because the treatment and pipes aren't ideal. Do I have that right?
In scenarios, yes. Like long distributions, look, big cities, they do need to add that chlorine to reduce microbiological growth that can make people sick, cholera epidemics, E. coli, coliforms, cryptosporidium, all of that. Yeah. So there are ways of just clay potting your water or just letting it air. But it all depends on where you live from the water treatment works. You know, if you live pretty close, it may have a stronger dose of chlorine.
Is this because there's periods in the transport of that water where it might be sitting as opposed to moving? Because when water is moving, it's hard for stuff to grow. But if it's sitting, that's when you might need the chlorine. And usually those occur, you know, in big cities, like you said, that have the need for the pressure and the storage.
So yeah, 100% water loves to be moving. Once water's stagnating, that's when the trouble happens. But to keep that wholesome, clean supply through the big cities so everybody gets clean water, then yeah, they will add either ozone, chlorine, disinfection to just allow the water to transport with a residual of like disinfectant. So by the time it gets to the end, it's still of a safe potable. It's a big decision.
Safe, but not ideal to the taste as we would prefer.
Yeah, some people are more sensitive. You know, everybody's palate is different. Yeah, but some are more sensitive to the chlorine than others. However, if you are taught from a young age of water tastes completely different, like Mother Nature, right, has more flavor than Baskin and Robbins, Coca-Cola, and Pepsi Cola put together, standard. But we weren't educated to discover that water's just water; it's all the same. But there is not one tap water or natural spring that is identical to another around the world. And that's a fact.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is crazy. Even though it's all water, it's all
Yeah.
different.
100%.
It,
But we've
that
just
that
never been trained to acknowledge that. And that's where it needs to change.
So on that note, the locality of these springs is one of the things that really I am so passionate about when I choose a bottled water. The the fact that the Fiji water came so far, and I am now taking a sip of water from such a foreign place. The different mineral content is different at all the springs around the world, as you said. Uh, are which ones are your favorite? I guess I should say.
Yeah, of course. So, for me, my favorite water is tap water, 100%. And that's what I advocate for doing what we're doing. Yeah. However, there's a water, right, from the Portuguese Azores. Okay. Oh, wow. Right. So, under volcanic pressure, it has about 85 milligrams a liter of silica, this mineral, and it's really found in volcanic regions. And it's got these natural bubbles under volcanic pressure, CO2 bubbles, like effervescent. Like the bubbles are there, but then they're not. And you drink this, it's like this, like beautiful light bubbles on the palate with this almost like silky, oily feel to the water. And it's out of this world, and I enjoy it so much. Like it's like a fine wine. You don't drink it every day, but every time I do, I will put it in the best stemware and drink that water. But our relationship with bottled water is not going anywhere. We should not be in this culture of just opening it and drinking. Oh, it's going to hydrate me. I need it. If you're just to take pause, yeah. If you're picking up a bottle of water, everybody has a smartphone in their hand. Just Google, where does this water come from? The geography, the geology, the terroir, the vintage of water. Like you talk about wine and vintage, water and vintage. So when it last rained, how long has it taken to go through Mother Nature's strata of, rocks, the geology before it comes back up to the surface? And I kid you not, once you start doing this, oh wow, you'll just look at water in a different way. The mythical legends of um, of the springs, and it's annotated in history. There's such beautiful backstories of every single Topo Chico. You heard of that water?
I did, but tell our audience because I did research that. Please.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, Aztec princess, she was ill, and this spring in Mexico, drink the water. She got well. That has been dotted in history for every single spring. There's some indigenous tribes, the way they respected it, the healing potential of these waters, but that's all been lost. And like the waters that we're going to be trying today all have that backstory, but we're not.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's another element inside to this that I didn't even realize. These springs are as old as the cultures who enjoyed them before modern culture started bottling there. So
yeah,
that spring maybe in Fiji I just referred to, the Fijians were probably nourishing their bodies from that spring
yeah,
hundreds of thousands of years ago when they were on the island. That's mind blowing. So. The vintage is another element that also brings me to another state. When the rain goes and does its thing and falls through the different elements, what are the elements, and is that where the TDS is being gathered? And as you say, each TDS is different based upon the region of the world, and and how does the amount of TDS reflect in the time it takes for
yeah,
the vintage to occur?
yeah. Of course, great question. So, time and vintage. So, the more the water is flowing over geological strata, the rocks, etc., the more of that TDS is going to be influenced in that water. So, there's some waters that are, say, 50,000 years old or more. Okay, you know, we've still got the same volume of water, but it's what we haven't been taught at school. You know, the water cycle. Yeah, evaporation, condensation, precipitation. When the precipitation hits the ground, that's it. We're not taught anymore, and that's where the magic happens, because that's where it's going to be absorbing. And even natural carbonation, i.e., the bubbles in the water, Mother Nature will do that in certain areas of the world. You know, you've got natural carbonated springs in the US, in Europe, Japan, and these are like magical. These waters come up bubbling out of the ground with those bubbles.
How is that, and what's happening there?
Yeah, so underground, like in old prehistoric, maybe volcanic regions, you have a lot of pressure and CO2 pockets, carbon dioxide. And under Mother Nature's pressure, the water come together and the bubbles, the CO2 infuses into the water, and then it's trapped. And then it will come emerge to the ground, to the surface as an artesian spring, or just under its own pressure, it will come up. And some of these waters, oh man, you drink these, I call it Mother Nature's Red Bull. Like, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling hungover, whatever it is, whatever that vibe is, water is the cure.
Well, we have the Red Bull as you described. Should we go right to it since we're on that subject of the bubbles, or is there a process here you'd like to take us through?
Process, yeah. Let's go through the process.
Let's
We're
go through the
go
process.
Yeah,
and
so if you,
I'm sorry to interrupt. If you don't mind, I would also, as we enjoy these, for you to also touch on the region and what you know about kind of the things that we've been speaking about, and
yeah,
elaborate.
Of course. So I guess you've got tap water.
I do.
Yeah. All right. So the number one beverage of our lives. Here we go. Love the stemware.
Thank you. I found the nicest glass I could in the house.
And just before we start, I get this a lot. What's the best way to drink water? And I would say, in a nice stemware, we give wine, beautiful glass. Why can't we give water the beautiful glass? But what I like to do is just whisper something nice to the water before you drink it. Simple. I love you.
Speaking from water. Speaking.
Yes. So yeah, I've got my tap water here.
It's good.
Is that filtered or non-filtered?
So this is the water that came from the tap that is from the Cape Fear River, and it has gone through the purification process. That's brand new. I don't know what it's called, but they're advertising it on the TV. There was an advertisement the other day that had a woman walking down the road saying how she was going to go spend all this money she was saving from not buying bottled water anymore. So the water company's really promoting their new system on our TV screens, and it does taste great. And again, does it still have PFAS residual, or is it completely gone, as good as reverse osmosis water?
There's only one way to find out. Take that to a lab and get it tested. And this is what I do in the UK for like companies, private individuals, testing waters, etc. And maybe just not like the taste, but the mouthfeel of water, because water has nuances. You know, you need to really focus, be mindful when you drink. Like really focus your mind of, I'm going into this and I want to explore. But like the mouthfeel of it as well. Does it feel light? Does it feel heavy? Does it feel silky? Does it feel chalky? That plays a big influence as well. But if you were to maybe do tap water and Fiji, and just compare and contrast.
And the Fiji water has such a unique smell to it.
How would you describe that?
Well, knowing it came from the tropics, first the word earthy comes to mind because there is an element of earth, but it does have the volcanic system that I understand
Yep.
it's from. So maybe I would say it has that element in it.
What I would like you to do is take your tap and the Fiji and just compare and contrast and just look, there is no right or wrong. We're using vocabulary to describe, but how
Okay.
would you
I would say the tap water is sharper, and
yeah,
the Fiji water is very smooth and silky and preferable, honestly. And I must say they're both at room temperature, which I understand from previous commentary from you that's the ideal way to analyze the flavor. Is that true?
100%. Yeah, so room temperature around 16 degrees is a bit of a sweet spot for still waters. And I quite liked your vocabulary that you used. Did you think you were going to wake up this morning and like describe water as like, sharp, silky, smooth?
I did
I,
it, and in fact, I was kind of like thinking, how am I going to do it? And then I was like, you know what? We're just going to do it. I didn't go to the source, and I said, well, we're just going to play by ear here, and that's exactly what came to mind.
and you're right. And I'll tell you the reason to why um, each water was different. So with this Fiji water, you know, your tap water's good. The local water authority has put some, water tech in place to give wholesome water. But where you described the water, like, was it focused on the tap water is sharp, and then that silky smooth with the Fiji? That's the mineral content in play. So with that Fiji water, if you look at the mineral composition on the back, the Fiji water is very, very high in silica, natural silica, which comes from like volcanic regions, which this water's from. But silica, when you drink it, it's silky, kind of oily, kind of silky, very, very smooth. I like to describe it as like Sade's smooth operator, very silky, very smooth, and that is the difference of the minerals that your mouth feel, bit of a taste, etc. And Fiji water with like a sweet dish works really well, or spicy foods where that silkiness kind of coats the mouth, you know. So
So beautifully said. So good.
yeah, yeah. So when you focus not on pH, just park that up to one side, man. Like the whole pH thing is just bullshit. Sorry,
Well,
language.
tell us a little bit more there, because there's a whole industry built upon around it. When I go to my health food store, there's a separate latch to fill up the water bottle that says this has been pHified, and it's like 4 times as much money. Uh, is it a scam?
Yeah. So when it's sold as pH regulate your body, pH your life, everything's going to be good, that's just a scam. Like majority of the time, it is genuinely tap water taken into a factory, completely stripped out. Essentia, they reached out to me to do some consultancy work. You know what I said? Your water is nothing but a chicken nugget. Yeah, I'm not getting involved.
Oh my God, the integrity.
Yeah, Pepsi
Yeah.
reached out. I said, you know what? I'm not getting involved. Oh, here's a bigger paycheck. I said, no, not getting involved. Go away.
Wow, impressive.
So majority of the time, it is tap water taken into a factory, completely stripped out of everything to where the water's dead. You cannot drink it. And then within that factory, via electrolysis or just putting some sprinkles of bicarbonate to raise the pH. You know, it's the process of your local water authority cleaning up that water so it's potable, drinkable, and then using the energy again to sell it and then sold back to you because it's pH regulated or whatever. It's a scam. Some people drink these pH waters and like, oh, I'm feeling great. Professional opinion, you're just drinking more. Yeah. Some people will invest in these Kangen alkaline water machines. I'm not here to say no, don't drink it, but your stomach acid is off, like say a 2.1, and it needs to maintain at that. The more you consume high pH waters, the more it dilutes, and that's a fact.
So a placebo is really what's going on.
Yeah, like unless a medical doctor, you have a medical condition, maybe kidneys or something, and they're like, if you could try to drink higher alkaline waters, yeah, cool. But you know, I'm not here to stop anybody. If you're drinking more water and you're feeling good, boom. But
when it comes to your professional opinion, it's the spring and the process of the water going through the earth that is what the best waters deliver to the body.
Yeah, you know, there's good tap waters, there's good natural spring waters, natural alkaline water from Mother Nature. Go for that. Do not waste your money on these hydro boosted and whatever. Yeah, it's, you know, there's one company called Smart Water. Trust me, you're not very smart if you're purchasing that. Yeah, so yeah, it's just that sort of drinking water culture, that drinking water lifestyle, just being a bit more in tune to where the water's from. And hey, look, there is no fairy tale of a water made in a factory. Yeah, you try explaining that to a kid, they'll be like, what the? But if you've explaining the natural source of the water and the fairy tale behind it, it's captivating. They're engaged. And from my experience, they don't want to drink soda. They want to explore water and discuss this in the playground. It's a win-win. So, next water.
One question more about the silica. So the silica is a key factor of the volcanic process of the water. Is that what I understand correctly?
So silica mineral tends to be rich at like prehistoric volcanic regions or active volcanic regions. Silica is great for your skin, hair, nails. But, you know, Fiji water is never promoted for its silica content. It's promoted because, hey, it looks cool it looks bougie. It's on Hollywood, you know, all the A-listers. You know, I was in New York back in September and I went for a run early morning. I see everyone dressed up for their morning run. Everybody had Fiji. And then in my head, I was like, do you know why this water's special besides looking cool? And genuinely, it's got such a high natural silica content, but it's never promoted that way. So, you know, I'm not promoting drink Fiji water, but if you are prepared, treat it like the most special beverage in the world and get in tuned from where it's from. And hopefully it will inspire you to help people of the island to access better water as well. If we're taking water from that island and drinking it and enjoying it, what can we do to help? So that's the ethos. Yeah.
Incredible. Which one would you like to go to next?
So what I would suggest is keep your Fiji and let's go with Evian.
So what do you know about the region where the Evian comes from in the Alps?
Yeah, so it's a very, very popular water. It's got about a 15-year vintage.
And what was the Fiji water vintage?
I would say in the region of about maybe around 60, 70 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's quite a difference in time between
Yes.
the Evian and the Fiji. So
yeah.
Does that factor alone almost make the Fiji more valuable?
No. The vintage is just giving you an idea, a snapshot of time. The water is enjoyed, Mother Nature, the geology, working its way through before it comes to the final output of the spring. So vintage is just really to give you a better understanding of the time it's taken to produce such a fantastic water. Yeah. So these two waters are kind of in a similar TDS, but very, very different minerals. So go back and forth between the two.
Well, before I go, I'm looking at the bottle and it says silica 15 and the Fiji silica was 93 milligrams. So
that's a huge difference.
Yeah, that's a huge difference, right?
Yeah.
And where the Evian has a high amount would be in the region of which mineral here would you say?
It's high in calcium.
Okay.
Well, what I'd like you to do is compare and contrast the two, and just use vocabulary of. And it's very important, this element of the vocabulary, and I'll tell you why after.
Hmm. So where the tap water was sharp and the Fiji was silky smooth, this is kind of like a crystally flavor. There's no bubbles, but it's pure. The purity, you can feel it.
Beautiful, beautiful vocabulary. Beautiful. For me, I find the Evian heavier. It's got a bit of a dryness to it because of the elevated calcium levels. It can finish a bit creamy. And then when I can contrast it with the Fiji, it's like chalk and cheese. The two waters are completely chalk and cheese. This is softer, a lot smoother, lighter. Yeah.
Spot on every single point you just made. Like brilliant.
But once you mindfully drink water, you're like, hold on a minute, I feel like something a bit smoother, or I've had a spicy dish. Let me grab the Fiji. And these minerals are good for you. So some waters have more calcium than a pint of milk.
That is
So
incredible.
so if you're vegan, or you need to get some calcium into your body, there's some waters out there that have 300 or 400 milligrams a liter of calcium, which is really, really good for you. So, looking at water as not that hydration. And just to touch on, I asked you to express vocabulary. Do you know why?
Tell us.
So globally, right, we have vocabulary for gin, whiskey, tea, coffee, champagne, every other beverage but water. And with that vocabulary for all of these other beverages, globally, we can communicate about it. We add value. And some bottles of wine are more than people's yearly salaries. Yeah. But we have never been encouraged to use vocabulary for water. And we just did it with two waters and the way you express vocabulary. So, teaching the youngsters, teaching people that, hey, taste water mindfully. Yes, there are nuances. It's not like a strong beverage that we have been accustomed to, but it's definitely there. Yeah. So using vocabulary to describe water will only elevate the communication of the value of water. If we can do it for every other beverage, why can't we do this for water and communicate? Hey, Sean, I had this beautiful Fiji water down the beach. It was soft, it was silky. I had a hot tamale after. The Fiji water just hydrophilically coated my mouth. Kids do it really well. Kids do it really well.
How did you develop your vocabulary? What did you pick up the thesaurus and discover the words? What was your process of developing your skill here?
Yeah, of course. The skill is, there is no skill. It is genuinely, mindfully, like, we discussed, looking at the backstory of where the water's from, the vintage, the geology, the mythical legends, just diving deep into it. Before I open this, deep dive, and then taste, compare and contrast. And the vocabulary element, express yourself. There is no right or wrong. Mouthfeel. When I'm doing these water tastings, yeah, I have people say, it reminds me of my grandmother's house. It reminds me of being in love. It reminds me of chilling on a beach. It reminds me of happy. I'll send you some pictures of the pictures that I've taken. I call it aqua tastology. And when I do these water tastings, we go through the waters, and I just throw pens, big notepads, and just express yourself. And once you do that with a group of people, and I encourage people to do this at home, it's going to change everything. At home, ask friends and family to bring tap water from their house to yours. If you wish, So bottled waters, a pen, a pad, look at the TDS levels and start from low to high, have some fun, just tasting waters together. I swear down, it's going to be that holy shit moment. Oh wow, we taste the difference. That's when and that's the only way you are going to be able to communicate the value of water. Because if we can value wine in that way, and other beverages, teas and coffees, we can do it for water, and that's what needs to be taught at schools, because it stays with them for life, for life.
That's so interesting, because I think we were doing it all wrong. We were doing a blind taste test style. It's like, oh, I can tell the difference between that. And the way you set it up is you really need to know where it's coming from. You need to enjoy the fact of the process when in the moment of describing, because all those elements are interlinked to the enjoyment.
Yeah, and like we are so lucky living where we do, got access 20 seconds to the tap to drink the waters, and then we have a range of, you've got you. Okay, here we go. Let's go a bit deep. So we spoke about kids, families having to travel to a well, missing school and everything to get those waters. What was your experience picking up those waters?
Well, I actually talked to my lovely wife who's sitting behind me here, and she delivered them to me through whatever mechanism she purchases things through, and it was very
So,
convenient.
water delivery, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's that relationship of, do not just open water for, if it's come from a natural source or something. This is taking centuries to make, and we're just guzzling it like it's just nothing, because the relationship is, hey, it's water. Oh, it comes in a fancy bottle, or I saw it in Hollywood and they're drinking it, and yeah, it's bougie, but there's so much to discover, so much, so much.
But I should have Cornelia, if you could wave to Milin. She's sharing her office with me today for this podcast.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, I can't really wait to share this knowledge that you've dropped on us today with the family tonight, because it's such a great social building activity, and positive.
I've like I've done so many water tasting events, right? Oh my God. Like genuine people just looking at me in the eyes going, oh wow, like this just changes my relationship with water, my perception of water. I've even been able to do some very, very influential individuals. I can't say who. The next day they called me and they said, I've just invested 200,000 in a water charity because of this, of just tasting water. And I'm like, thank you. Like, if you can influence people or get people just to make more better decisions. So it's not just buying bottled waters, plastic bottled waters, throwing it away. Yeah, it definitely helps. Definitely. So yeah, it's all about the vocabulary, and it's very easy to do. Very easy to do. I did a water tasting, right, in Edinburgh. There was over 250 people in that audience, and they were like there's some pretty influential people from the States, from Europe, and it's never been done before. And I have never seen CEOs, and these are CEOs of water treatment companies, Scottish Water and that, fist pump in the air, taking selfies, coming up on stage. It was incredible, and they were all tasting water, going, "This is the best thing that we've ever done." And on each table, they had pens and big pads, and they were just writing their experiences, the taste, the bubbles of joy, whatever it was. And then I've got all of this and put it on a big board, and people were just looking at it, going, "Is this how we've described water? The vocabulary, the expressions." It was just crazy, and people were just looking at it, thinking, "There's more to it." So yeah, I would love to know how you get on later on with the fam. I think it's going to be special.
It will. It will. Where would you like to go next with my selection?
Yeah. Let's so we're going to do the sparkling, yeah.
Sh-
Okay.
should should we try a I also have this kind of sparkling, which is just a soda mixer. I don't know
Yeah,
if
yeah,
that's because I would say this would be the factory kind, and this is the natural kind. Um,
yeah.
which one would you like
So what,
for me
yeah,
to
so
try
what we'll
first?
do, go with your club soda, then go with the San Pellegrino, and then Gerolsteiner.
All right. So this
That
is club.
Gerolsteiner is one of my favorites.
Yes,
Yeah, man,
yes,
you
mine,
go
mine too.
boom.
I love how you call it the Red Bull of sparkling water.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. German engineer.
So this is the club soda from the Harris Teeter out of a can.
Yeah,
Very, very bubbly coming out. So this is formed with CO2 from like the factory
injected in. Yeah,
injected in, and that's why there's bubbles.
yeah,
And the bubbles are huge.
yeah. Boom.
Explosive, lots of bubbles.
It's
And
like doing a round with Tyson, eh? Big bubbles.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Round of Tyson, perfectly set. I do love it, however. And
Yeah,
I'll drink these instead of beer sometimes, and just for that high carbonation
yeah.
feeling going down the mouth, the throat.
The bubbles
Uh,
of joy just go.
right, but this doesn't have any minerals, probably, unless there's minerals in the water already,
Very,
right?
very low. Very low. Yeah, very low. But if you were now to compare that with the San Pellegrino, I could give you a bit of backstory of San Pellegrino.
Please do.
So San Pellegrino, a fantastic natural water from Italy, the north. It's artificially carbonated. So if you were to drink this water, it's directly from the spring, it's fantastic still. So it's artificially carbonated. Um, you get it all around the world because of Coca-Cola's reach. And to be fair, if you're out having a meal, it will probably be Aquapana or San Pellegrino on the table. So people think of sparkling water as San Pellegrino, but there are so many different sparkling waters.
So I just had a sip, and I would
Yeah,
call it a smoother experience, maybe more enlightened.
yeah.
It's not as jam packed, full of explosions.
Ooh,
My
nice.
thank you. Tiny little hand grenades, and they're it's very enjoyable. So it's a still water that they inject to make the bubbles. So it's a consistent experience as they ship it around the world. Is that what
Yeah,
I'm getting here?
yeah, that's right. And these big corporates with water. So in France at the moment, there's some brands that have been doing some naughty things of filtering the waters. And if you class it as a natural spring water, there should be no modification. And what gets me about this brand is this water is found everywhere around the world. Yeah, in mass quantities. But what gets me is that the spring is a natural product, so there's always going to be fluctuations. And I think they do modify this in some way. It's Coca-Cola, man. How can a product of Mother Nature be so consistent? Can't. I personally think they modify. And if I get a lawsuit from Coca-Cola, I'll deal with it. Yeah, I'm just putting stating facts, okay? But again, there's some amazing other waters that you should just never heard of.
And
So
it's the fanciest so-called fancy of this um sparkling water.
yeah, so
That is found everywhere.
yeah, that's right, because of the distribution reach. But it's got a high level of sulfates, pretty good for digestion after a meal. It's got bicarbonate, which gives it that kind of chalkiness. Yeah, it's chlorides, good level of calcium. So it's a high like mineral content water. There's a lot of minerals with the sparkling. But if you were to allow the bubbles to dissipate, then try it. Boom. That's where the magic is. It's really nice. And that's just the taste of the minerals in the water. So even if you were to leave a little out, just leave the glass in the sun, you'll see all the minerals. And like when you look at these minerals, they'll create really cool patterns. And that's what your body needs. That's where it's at.
And what do you know about this region in Italy as far as the topography, the spring itself, any cultural lore around it?
Oh, huge amount. If you were to look at majority of these older bottled waters, they'll always have a date. Like here, it's 1899. So that's when it was first bottled. And that's even prior to a lot of the beverages that we drink now. So a lot of these natural waters have been bottled for a very, very long time. For this spring here, it's got a lot of the chlorides, the bicarbonates, which gives it its distinctive taste. And then they add the CO2 to give the sparkling. But a lot of heritage, this water. But this water was mainly at the beginning used as a medicinal water for people to come and drink the waters and get healthy, get fit. But then people were like, oh, we visited this spring, we enjoyed the waters, I felt better. Let's put it in a bottle and start shipping. And then that bottled water turned into this. So yeah, that's where this has come from.
And because of the region, we can think Roman times, even going further back.
There were specific springs, like the Romans would come to the UK, go through Romania, through Europe, and there were specific springs that they would drink out of even before battle, because they knew that this water had healing, had energy, and yeah, there's all dotted across Europe. These special springs where people would go.
What's your favorite myth you've come across?
My favorite myth would be the myth of Pegasus in Slovenia, and it's got one of the world's richest magnesium waters, right? This is strong water. And Pegasus hit his hoof so hard on the ground that the spring erupted. And I love that. And I love the Topo Chico stories. There's so many untold backstories of these springs, So yeah.
Beautiful. And which water should we try next?
So if you want to do a compare and contrast of San Pellegrino and Gerolsteiner.
Now, this Gerolsteiner, does this have the carbonate that's naturally formed in the rock, or do they add the bubbles too?
What I would suggest, compare and contrast, use your vocabulary, and I'll tell you.
Okay, awesome.
Just go blind. Yeah, well, not blind, but
yep. And now, just for a comparison, we were talking about sulfates. This is as a sulfate level of 35, so it's higher than the Evian, but a lot lower still than the Fiji.
Well, once you've tasted it, read out the minerals to me.
All right, and I'm pouring it, and the bubbles are beautiful bubbles, large, fluffy. Some are
I like that, large
tiny
and fluffy,
and microscopic, and it was a beautiful pour.
Mm.
Wow. Okay, so where the club soda had the explosions, this had explosions, but they were softer, but still large, in contrast to the Pellegrino that had the subtle pops. This was a large pop that was soft.
And if you were to go back to the San Pellegrino and back to Gerolsteiner, tell me.
Okay.
This is Germany v Italy here, hey?
Yeah, the Gerolsteiner wins hands down, in my opinion. The reasoning, I would say, is because of the matching smoothness with the robustness. So there's a robustness that it's kind of a middle ground between the two tastes prior, and very, very, it's a beautiful experience.
Yeah, it's very good water. If you were to read out the mineral content of Gerolsteiner from the bottle.
So the calcium is 345, magnesium 100, bicarbonate 1800, potassium 10, sodium 115, chloride 40,
So
Other minerals, 55, and then mineral content total 2,500. It seems out of all the ones we've had, that's the highest mineral count.
yeah, so for example, tap water for me is around TDS 300, and that is 2,200. So it's a highly mineralized, natural, carbonated water. Comes out of the ground in that state with the bubbles.
Incredible. That blows my mind. Wow. So nature made all these bubbles here.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were
So
able to package it in Germany in this beautiful
yeah,
bottle and ship it.
yeah.
That is incredible.
In Germany, they have over 800 natural springs. So, for example, if you were to go to a supermarket in Germany, they have a dedicated water aisle, which sometimes is bigger than the liquor aisle because they've got so many different springs. And depending on your lifestyle, what you want to get from the water, you choose specific waters from very champagne-like bubbles to like, 10 rounds with Mike Tyson, big, bold bubbles. Different
And
types of mineral
each spring
content.
has its own bubble.
Yeah, it could be still, like a natural still water, or because there's a lot of old volcanic regions in Germany where these naturally carbonated, high mineral content waters come from. Yeah,
Have you
and you know
visited?
what's
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, and you know what's interesting in like Germany and Switzerland, that some of these waters, like oh, where is it? Oh, here we go. Yeah, check this. And this is what. So you see this? It says Hilsiwasser. Yeah, that's a health water. Okay, so across Europe, they don't do this in the UK, and I wish they would. But this would be in a pharmacy. Okay, and the pharmacist may say, "Oh, you got a headache? Drink this for a week, and then come back, and we'll give you some pills." So they actively promote these styles of water. This one here's got like natural lithium. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel good, and that's the power of water. It's just a natural element. High calcium, high magnesium, potassiums, everything that your body needs to feel good. So, would you ever see that in the States of promoting water as medicine?
I see it in the future.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
The enlightened are going to make this a reality for everybody. Now, have you visited any of these springs in Germany?
No, not in Germany, but I've visited a range of different springs and being able to drink
When
from them.
you arrive to the spring, is it literally coming up out of the ground? What's the mechanism of capture?
Um, your hand, your mouth, a bottle. But yeah, these are just under natural artesian force. The pressure comes up and it just comes bubbling up out of the ground. So, sometimes it might just be a little spout, but people will come there with the jerry cans filling up the waters. Yeah.
So, for instance, if we visited a spot in Germany, there would be a spout that had been there for maybe 100 years that's just pouring water constantly out,
Constant. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's as beautiful as this, bubbly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
incredible. Now, what's going on specifically down under the earth? I know you touched on it before, but I'm holding this glass. I'm touching it with my tongue, and I'm in awe of the process of the bubbles being made by the planet. Can you
Yeah.
kind of dial that down for me?
Yeah. So it's just underneath the Earth's surface, you have water flowing and you have pockets of the CO2, carbon dioxide. Under pressure, the two marry. And then the CO2 is dissolved into the water to create sparkling water that you would drink from the bottle, or it comes bubbling up out of a spout or area that it's just freely flowing. So yeah.
And then when they capture it in the bottle, they put the top on immediately so the
Yeah.
bubbles stay. That's how that happens?
Yeah, so in the bottling process, there'll be like pressure vessels, or they'll capture the CO2, the natural CO2, and then re-inject that into the water. But there is one that I tried in Slovenia, yeah, and this is identical to what's in the bottle to what you drink out of the spring. And it's pretty rare to have waters like that, but they are available. But a lot of these waters, unless it's Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, or the big players, the distribution of it. So let me break this down, okay? A bottle of wine, a bottle of water, 750 ml. Yeah, the weight of it is the same. But to ship that bottle of wine, everyone's cool with it. But then if you were to ship that water, which is the same weight, what? You're shipping water around the world? Yes, water should be accessible to everybody, but drinking water and creating your drinking water lifestyle, yeah, one, you get healthier, you're exploring Mother Nature, you're getting in tune with water, has a less carbon footprint than that bottle of wine, 100%. But it's our mindset of, oh, it's water, you're shipping water. What about the wine and all the byproducts and everything else? Yeah, people cherish wines, but I was with yeah, go on, sorry.
No, go ahead. Because, well, just on that point, that's the first thing people do say. It's like, oh, that Fiji came from so far. What's the footprint? But it takes the intellectual integrity of describing it, the mindfulness of stopping and sipping it and enjoying it. And when you do that, you're doing the same thing that you should be or would be doing with a fancy bottle of wine, and the water's better for you. So I believe philosophically, from a planetary perspective, that we should give the water transportation a pass when it is enjoyed like you're describing.
Do you enjoy it like a connoisseur, or do you just be one with water, get in tuned with it? It's without it, we're screwed. So respect it. By respecting it, like, you know, respecting other beverages, why can't we give water its value? I was at a big charity event with one of the major water charities, and they had like the NGOs, the financiers, and I was just invited. And I remember Natalie Campbell, MBE, she passed me the mic and goes, "Do you want to say something?" I was like, "Oh." But what I noticed on the tables was, and it was called the Solution Circle, this event, and it was talking about how we can bring clean water and sanitation to everyone around the world. These are big players. And I said, there's a fundamental issue in this problem. How are we going to solve this global water crisis if we don't even respect water in this room? No, like, who the is this guy? And I said, the reason why is that we've got 8 of these tables with very, very influential people. And they're like, okay, go on. And I said, well, on this table, you've got a beautiful wine glass, and then you've got a crappy looking tumbler. Why is the water in the crappy looking tumbler and the wine in the wine? Let's switch that around, then start the conversation. They kind of looked at me like, what? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it's
When you put it in those terms, it's so simple, it's so intuitive and accessible to most. And then you realize how great you do have it when you do stop and enjoy it.
And I think the take home message of getting together and doing this family water tasting, or friends and family water tasting, is magical. It's magical.
And you spoke with me prior to our conversation about an art and water tasting event you do, and walking away and thinking about that, it was just so profound, because in America we have these things called wine and design, where people will go sip wine. Maybe you have them in the UK, and then they all do an art piece, there's different formats to do it, but the main event is the wine. You describe a experience where the people do the water tasting while doing artwork. Can you tell us more about that, how it's gone, and what your
Yeah,
format is?
yeah. So at my sort of have a little store in London where um, I promote drinking water cultures. Come and explore water technology for your tap, respect tap water, but then taste waters. Come in, taste waters, like we're doing here. But what I did was the element of the educational element of right. Here's a bottle of water. This is where it's from, the backstory, everything. And I would give them a canvas with some paints, sip the water while you're creating artwork. Brother, I'll tell you something. The type of artwork that was created, the inspirational element of individuals just being connected and putting on that canvas what that water, what that experience gave them, incredible, incredible. And so many people were like, wow, this was cool. So literally, respecting water. If you're privileged enough to have a bottle of water, do everything that we've said. Do your homework, open it, drink it, enjoy pen, paper, paintbrush, canvas, go for it. And it's been a great success. And I'll do this over the weekends. Had a lot of collaboration with the Royal School of Art in the UK. My gallery manager, Alex, was helping me put these together. And yeah, we got a lot of recognition from the art community and just people wanted to connect with water. And at first, when I first opened, people are like, oh, yeah, it's just for the rich and fancy. 80% of the people that were coming in were either suffering from some level of mental health and just wanted to feel better. And they knew water was the cure. And people just wanted to explore water. And it was completely different. Everyone just branded it as, oh, it's for the rich and fancy. I said, no, it's for everyone. Kids, parents would leave the kids, go shopping, and they would have like a masterclass of art and water. All of the artwork in the gallery was water inspired, and I wish we had connected because I would have loved your pieces, man. Phenomenal, phenomenal. So the whole water and the arts thing works, and like I can see what you've done from what I've done here in London with cymatics as well. All of that, it's brilliant. Yeah.
Well, I'm as an artist, I'm kind of interested to understand, were people making landscapes? Were they making abstract pieces? What was kind of what did you see most from your guests?
Yeah, so quite a lot of it was landscapes of what they thought the spring, etc., looked like, and then some were very abstract in the dynamic of the way the water felt on the mouth feel, etc. But it was just down to the individuals to express that relationship of what they'd learned about the water, the backstory of the water, and drinking that water, of how that made them feel through that session. I know it's just the most easy way to connect and create something and put something on the canvas of your experience of drinking water.
And I love how people broke away from just landscapes to abstract
Oh,
pieces of the feeling of the water. That is incredible, and should be tried by the families when they do the water tasting.
yeah, we had one piece done, um, and he was a very good artist, but he created this whole piece of like what the future of water would be. Like it was like this press, like really, really detailed of like these astronauts holding this bowl, and this was the only water left, and intricate space bits, and yeah, we've had some amazing pieces, and we would have gallery shows as well. So the artist would put them up, and would have an open day. People would come in and just share their artwork and what it meant. So it's good times.
I love it so much. I I think we've touched on all the waters. Is that right here? I have one more, and it's
Um,
this.
oh,
This is one that you don't have, but it's high alkaline purified water with electrolytes, and that's how they're branding it. So it's kind of what we described earlier with the high alkalinity added. The also added, and this was a key question of mine actually,
Mhm.
was they've added other minerals. So minerals added to the water. So they've added the pH, added the minerals. A lot of action has been done. The branding is high. It's called Path. So I'm going to try this out and talk about it real quick. But
Yeah.
while I'm pouring, can you tell me what your thoughts are on the adding of the minerals to water as opposed to what we've been talking about, the minerals being added by the earth?
Yeah. So, like, I'll be very straight. You're probably better off drinking tap water than that. That is tap water processed in a factory and then added alkalinity and minerals. It has a place, this style of water. Like, if there's been a natural disaster of some sort and you can't get hold of water, then taking tap water and completely purifying it, etc. I'm just
Okay.
waiting for it.
Yeah, you're pausing because I'm sipping, and I apologize for sipping while you're
No, no,
talking,
no,
but
no,
I
it's good.
will describe it real quick because
Mm,
my first reaction was it had the same odor almost as the tap water, and that might have to
mm,
do with the container or vessel it's in is aluminum. The pipes that my water is coming to me are probably metal,
yeah,
but the flavor is a little bit different. And I must say I can taste almost the minerals they added because it's similar to the calcium amount that was in the Evian. And I don't know, is calcium an easy element to add as opposed to say a silicon
yeah. I think they'll just add
a silica, excuse me,
potentially.
not silicon, silica.
Yeah,
So like can they add the silica or like I'm sure there's a menu of minerals that are easier to
yeah.
add.
So I think what they've just added there is probably baking soda.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yummy.
yeah. I, waters like that. If you see purified, that is literally tap water stripped and then something added in a factory and sold back to you like 1,000 times more than the price of tap water. So here's an interesting one, right? So on my travels, especially around say poorer countries or these purified waters, that's what you get, okay, and that's what people can access. But what's happened, and I've done like a lot of interviews and things like this. So what's happened with these big corporates pushing out this purified tap water, very, very low mineral content water. Okay. So people are accustomed to just drinking that. That is what water should taste like, and that is water. Yeah. If they were to drink anything else with a higher mineral content, they would can't drink that. Doesn't taste right. And there's a big issue that people's perception of water is dictated by the Coca-Cola and the Pepsi Colas. And this is just fucking wrong. Yeah. Water should have taste. Water should have character. Discover it. But globally, where these mass waters are just sent out, and sometimes it's the only water that people can try. If they were to try anything different, they'll think there's something wrong with that water. So that's just something that I've noticed, like with this cultural shift of bottled waters. And some of these waters have minimal minerals. So where does your body get that mineral? Yes, you can get it from food, etc. But water, if it's tap or bottled, should have a good amount of minerals for the body. And those are Mother Nature's electrolytes. So when you see the waters with electrolytes and this and that, just marketing. Yeah, just marketing.
Marketing, key point there. So it's all about knowing where the water came from, knowing that the minerals in the water from that region are special, knowing how to describe them when you're enjoying it
Yeah,
effectively. And this is all after, of course, it's a understanding that it's just something we need in general, water. And
yeah,
it's enjoying water on the highest level you possibly can. And
yeah,
that's what your game is, and such an
yeah.
amazing game. I'm just been so blown away. Um, I would like to keep going for a second more. If do you have, do you
100%. I think we could go on and on and
yeah,
on.
yeah,
I'm cool with it.
we're
I'm
so
cool with it.
passionate about it. Um, what is the one thing that we haven't really touched upon that you think we should know?
I think it's sharing this, just this, like we've touched on it, of like the water tasting element. You know, the price of water. Some waters can be more expensive because they might be, marketed in a way. But I think, don't look at the price. Look at the backstory. Look at the source. Where's this water from? Is what you should focus on. And also, like, what can you do for others? And that's important. Not everybody is of an equal when it comes to water. So, like, you know, your water choices, what you can request from your local water utility. And you guys have a prime example. Upstream PFAS companies dumping out PFAS. Your water utilities have taken note, have invested probably millions in, if it's activated carbon or if it's an RO mechanism, whatever it is. So I think water should not be left to just governments or private companies. It must be a community thing now. Yeah.
And you have these incredible bottles behind you.
Mm,
I can see the beauty in their marketing. But let's just suppose that with the marketing of the Pepsi Cola brands, like this Path bottle, it's beautifully
yeah.
marketed. It's selling me on all this stuff that you've enlightened me to the fact that it's BS. And we now know again that the positivity comes from these rare, unique places where the water is captured. And there's a bottle of water that I think you've been speaking about in previous episodes in Patagonia, where a guy chisels off the glacier, um, and the water falls into the bottle, and it's very super expensive.
Yeah.
That intrigued me because it's like a really expensive bottle of wine, as we talked about it, and how it's captured is so unique. Can you speak to this bottle in particular and tell me a little bit more about it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Let me just grab it over there. So it's called Apsu, bottled in very, 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 very low numbers. So they call it nomadic harvesting. They go out on boat 3 or 4 days and literally go up to glacier in Patagonia. You can't fly in, and they might have maybe 50 bottles on the boat. They don't chip away. It's just naturally freely flowing from the glacier and melting. So they may bottle about 100 bottles in this beautiful French blown glass. So there's two scenarios to this, okay? If not presented in the right way, this is just 140 pounds or dollars water. What the hell? It causes that big uproar. But then the other side of my mind is like, people could have a party and bring in an expensive bottle of wine. But what this does in the right scenario is creates that shock value. But then it creates that debate: what is the value of water? Yeah. And some people are always just for the rich, it's this, that. But some people do not drink alcohol. Some people want an experience. But what happens when I've presented these waters? And I always feel a bit uneasy, but I always make sure it's on the right way. But this actually creates this: wow, I value water. Like, I've just experienced something truly special. And yeah, it genuinely, they're on a boat for 3 days, collecting this water and bringing it back. So there's a good, beautiful backstory. And there's some individuals that contact me going, look, I've got a special event, a wedding, a birthday party, a 60 years birthday party, whatever it is. And they gift water. And people are like, oh my God, this is like crazy. This is so special, So It's it creates a deeper conversation.
And that is exactly the key point. It brings everything to light. All the intricacies of what we've been discussing this previous 2 hours almost has to do with the the highest essence of what water is, and that
Yeah.
leads the conversation. Um, I love that. I love that story. I love that bottle. What's another a brand or bottle that you've come across that you're like, this is another really sick one?
Yeah, I think all waters have their beautiful merit. Um,
Well, here,
me, I
let me hone down on what I mean here, because like,
yeah,
uh, I in the research I saw you're affiliated with Fine Liquids. Fine Liquids sells these beautiful different kinds of waters from all over the world. Do I have that right? Fine Liquids.
yeah, yeah. So fine liquids, Pat and I, fine liquids. Um, we were just bouncing off each other. You know, I was helping him, he was helping me.
Right,
So
right.
I'm not.
Okay, so but here's what I love about it. Here's what I love about the really fanciest waters is the backstory. It's like the
Yeah,
Fiji. Like today, I understand tact to my taste buds why I like the Fiji, physically why
yeah,
I like the Fiji. But before, I like the story behind the Fiji. And
yeah,
we just heard an amazing story behind this water in Patagonia. That's a region that everyone loves from the photos. So it's almost like you can travel around the world when you're tasting these different waters, and that is so special and unique. Um, the question I'm honing down on here is like, what's another one that you're just like, wow, that's super
oh, yeah, yeah.
unique?
Okay. So it's all about that emotional connection to water, and this is what it provides. So I've got one here, and I've got two actually that I would like to share. So this one is from Svalbard. Okay, this is iceberg water.
Okay, rewind. What? I'm sorry. What was that region or country?
Svalbard in Norway. So it's about 1,000 kilometers from the North Pole. So it's the island of Svalbard. This water is genuinely um, polar icebergs just floating away, which are just going to melt to the ocean. And they go out on a boat and harvest these. Yeah. And they listen out for crackling. And the ice is talking by crackling. And this ice is about maybe 5,000 years old. And they literally just very carefully capture very, very, very small amounts and bottle it. And it's a very unique water, taste wise. The backstory presenting this, it's carbon neutral, and they put a lot back into Svalbard. So, yeah, these waters, it definitely brings the shock value. But then when you really tend to what they're doing, to, you know, if it's like a gift or if it's like I gifted these for a wedding. Like one of my best friends got married, and I gifted him one of these. Everyone was like, "Wow!" You know, it was like such a special moment, and he cherishes it. He goes, "No, it's like the most special gift I've ever got." So we could do that, and then we've got another one here from the Amazonian rainforest. Okay, so this, imagine David Attenborough, the air rivers above the canopies when the trees are transpiring. See that mist? That is using water technology, atmospheric water generator, to gently collect this water. Very, 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 very low numbers. But again, it's a unique experience in the sense of they put back a lot into the community. Because if you're looking after the people of the Amazon, but also it highlights all the issues around the Amazon. It's an experience water. You don't guzzle this. But like if it's something that you're celebrating, some people want to celebrate with champagne, it is £100 a bottle. But water, it brings a unique experience. It's
Well, you talk about the shock value of the price, and honestly, for what you just described, that sounds
Yeah,
inexpensive. Like,
yeah,
I know the common man. Look at the beautiful presentation, guys. Those
yeah.
listening on radio, I'm viewing a just a beautiful box with all the details, and the
Gives
bottle
you the
is
full backstory. Yeah,
beautifully presented. And it's inexpensive really when it comes down to it, because if you engage the water here with the right palette description, the mindful activity, you can really go to that place and understand the uniqueness of it, because when you put it into your lips, there's not going to be another water that tastes like that.
no, it's very like if you were to experience it, it's very unique. Like the mouthfeel, the taste of it, but just the backstory of these floating rivers above the Amazon, of experiencing that via water technology. And that technology is used to provide water to communities. But then a lot of the money that's generated from this goes back. But it creates that conversation. What is the value of water? You know? And the experiences, the emotional connection. Once you are emotionally connected to something, you'll love it forever. And that's where we are. Get emotionally connected to water, its source, its understanding, and yeah.
Does the cloud water have minerals?
Very low, very low. So I have a water called Cloud Juice from Tasmania. So very, very, very remote. It rains a lot. Um, you were to drink that, literally, it's collected straight rain, and it's like velvet. It truly is like velvet. And sometimes you can hear the rumble of the clouds when you put the glass up to your
Love it. What
ear.
if you don't mind, can you show us what that
Yeah,
bottle looks like?
yeah, of course.
Oh, it's a beautiful bottle. Almost looks like
Yeah.
a wine bottle.
So, like,
Yep.
backstory, yeah. So there's 9,750 drops of pure rainwater. Our home, King Island, has some of the cleanest air in the world, thanks to the strong westerly winds known as the Roaring Forties. It rains on average 180 days per year. The character of cloud juice changes with temperature, from sweetly refreshing when chilled to an elegant velvet when served at room temperature. And it is exactly what it says. So, yeah.
When they developed the vocabulary and the copy for the bottles, is that something that you've been involved with your consulting, and kind of what's your process
Yeah,
there intellectually?
yeah, yeah. So behind the scenes, I just help like the Mind Pass style brands, so like the small springs. I love them in the sense of they are so in tune with the environment and they want to protect the environment, but then also in small quantities of what they can manage is it share that water, the experience of having these waters for health, for well-being, or just discovery. So I love working with these small spring operators. They do not make money. This isn't money. Majority of these bottles here are from these Mine Pass springs, which I do what I can to help to elevate the importance of the water, to share the waters, but then also take care of the land that the water is from. And a majority of these springs are handed down in like generational into families. So yeah, it's always nice working with them because you can never compete with the David and it's a David and Goliath thing, competing with the big brands. Like you see Pellegrino everywhere because of a reason. But the more people get into it, people start exploring different waters and wanting to try them. So yeah, it's. But I think the whole element of being fortunate enough to try all of these different waters, experience, emotionally connect, but what can you do to make better tap water and wastewater services? Getting that element right, the respect right, we will have beautiful, flourishing communities. you know, that have sufficient water to irrigate, have sufficient water to grow crops, you know, sufficient water for fun, you know, with all your surfing here in the UK at the moment. Some of the water companies are just pumping out sewage into the seas, and people are getting sick from just going to the beach. You know, stuff like that needs to stop.
I went to El Salvador a couple years ago, and for a surf trip, we stayed at
Cool.
a beautiful little spot. And by most surf breaks in the world, there's a river mouth usually, because
Yeah.
the how the beach works. And this particular trip, it rained a lot, and I didn't really think anything of it. The ocean was dark brown. I thought maybe because of mud, but day four, I got and my friend, we got so sick. And it's because the the people who live there, it's no fault of their own, they're surviving, but they don't have the resources to build the treatment plants to clean the water before it goes out into the stream. And the water cycle for most of the world is like this, as you spoke about earlier. Does not have the access to the clean drinking water, and even the water that's coming downstream, they can't just capture it and drink it. It's contaminated. And is there a simple solution as far as new technologies where they can just be dropped in and implemented? Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, containerized water treatment plants that you could just drop in, clean up water. It's there, but it's just a very, very slow uptake. Imagine how the uptake of the Apple iPhone or Apple products has been globally. Yeah. Why the hell can that not be translated into water tech to clean water? Because without it, you will not have an iPhone. And you may be aware the amount of water it takes just to create an iPhone. Semiconductors, microchips, high purity, clean water is required. A lot of waste for that process. But things will change, but you know, you're 20, 30 years away. But the solution is start teaching this water education on a deeper level at schools, because this is going to really, really inspire the next generation of policymakers, environmental scientists, engineers. Yeah, it takes a lot to look after water and infrastructure.
and again, the key point here is in mindfully enjoying every sip you take and understanding the process and all that went into the water. I want to kind of get to, you're a big influencer. You speak to a lot of people, a lot of times, small groups, uh, big groups, fancy people, regular little kids that all come to this to you with different concepts of water. How do you, as uh, a public figure, an engager, a passionate person in the water world, when you walk into a room, gauge your audience to then deliver the message you want to deliver?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Um, for example, I I feel pretty confident with the way I deliver, and I'll give you a real time example. So I did a event at the National Theatre in London, so it's a pretty big event, and there was about 70 people there, and I remember the engineers walking in, and they come from my background, but I remember hearing them going, "Oh, what's this guy on? He's wasting our time. He's talking about water. Oh, I can't be asked." But we've been told, you know, proper. There was about 8 of them, just like all huddled together, and they're like, "This is a waste of time. Water's just water." Did the presentation. The estates director was there. As soon as I finished that presentation, those 8 engineers were the first to stand up and shake my hand to say, "Oh my God, this has been amazing. We didn't actually realize." So, like anyone that's skeptical, oh, water's just water, within that 10 minutes of just tasting different waters, it clicks in the brain. You see it in the eyes. You see it in the eyes. Like you see people just smiling, like, oh. And this is what you need to influence at the schools. Like even if you could do it in your area, Sean, like, you know, what we've learned here, I'll be more than happy to help. Just go into a school and just get that done. It will transform the kids. They'll be like, oh, wow. You know, do an aqua tastology board. All the kids can write down their experience and then reflect on that after. And I'll be like, wow, man, I've got superpowers. You
Ah,
know,
Milin, you just gave me chills. There's chills going down my body. I'm so doing that. And that kind of led me to my next question because
yeah,
in preparation, I was researching the internet, Sommelier for water. There's a guy who's doing he'll charge you $5,000 to give you a fancy certificate that tells you that you are now a water sommelier. And like 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 do you need to go through that, or what's your method of attack for someone who wants to be a water sommelier?
my method of attack is water is accessible to everybody. Just personally form your relationship with water, do the tastings, grab your phone. Oh, oh, sorry. Let me just charge up. Let me just charge up. Sorry, we've been talking.
You're
Battery
good.
just went.
Yeah.
It's all good. I look. You do not need a title as a water sommelier, yeah, but have the title as a water advocate in the sense of emotionally connect to water, understand it, drink it, respect it, discover the nuances of it, and share that knowledge. Yeah. Next time you open a bottle or from a tap, someone standing next to you, just try to describe that experience. Or does it remind you of something? I get that a lot. Oh, it reminds me of holiday, my grandmother's house, or good times. I remember once someone goes, it reminds me of an airport lounge. And I was like, hey, if that's what it jogs your memory. So you don't have to spend money on this. All you have to do is just invest time that there's more to water, go and discover. Yeah.
Such a great message. And I also love your idea of taking tap water from one region. Say you're going to dinner for Thanksgiving and
Yeah.
and you're gonna enjoy someone else's tap water there. You take your own tap water and you can discuss maybe do a little research as to what your local treatment plant might be doing, and that can enter the conversation. And again, it builds the conversation, and you're also in the present moment mindfully feeling the water of your space.
Yeah. And I just wanted to drop something else as well while we're on this. Water and food pairing. Okay. So now you've, say, for example, you've had Gerolsteiner and you've had Fiji. If I said to you, say, Fiji water with maybe a sweet dessert or something that's been quite spicy. So with the softness, the velvetiness of maybe a creamy dessert or a sweet dessert, or cashew nuts, I love. Fiji, cashew nuts together, boom.
Ooh.
Or, yeah, so you can pair water and food together. Gerolsteiner. If you're vegetarian, like barbecued um, peppers on a barbecue or some meat. So the mineral content with the big bubbles will cut through the fats of the meat to allow it to release more flavor. It's very refreshing after, but you know, compare and contrast of the mouthfeel and taste of the water with foods works very, very well. But again, just compare and contrast, and you'll be surprised.
What would you recommend with a steak?
Steak, Gerald Steiner, man, 100%. Yeah, the mineral content, the salt, it's got higher sodium than the San Pellegrino, so that works really well with the steak. The bubbles in it refreshes the palate as well. But what I find is that the bubbles are very like robust. It cuts through the fat and releases flavor as well. So I'd recommend that.
Incredible. How about a salmon?
Salmon, okay, 100% salmon, low TDS water, like either the Fiji or then you might see a brand called Icelandic Glacial. You may, or even the
We
Evian.
Yep.
Yeah. So Icelandic Glacial, very low TDS, very crisp, perfect for salmon. because it allows us, if it's a smoked salmon or just like sashimi style, you will taste the salmon. The water will allow you to get more deep flavors out of the salmon. The water will
Incredible.
help elevate taste.
And can I go to chicken? Tell me about chicken.
Chicken, evian, crispy salad, yeah, evian, or something that has not so robust bubbles. Yeah, so look at the carbonation level as well, because carbonation plays a huge factor on the sensory element as well. Also, or a Saratoga with chicken, like a grilled chicken, Saratoga would be pretty good.
Incredible. And I got to tell you, like, I was telling my father, he listens to my podcast. Shouts out Tom Ruttkay. He's like, a water sommelier. Well, that one's not going to be 2 hours. And I was like, bro, we're going to go 2 hours. You watch this. And we've gone past 2 hours. And I
We gone
really,
past 2 hours.
bro, we're like way past 2 hours. So I can't thank you enough for spending your time with us. And I'd love to do this again in the future. I'm totally going to take you up on getting out there into the schools, because it starts the broader conversation. And this podcast was made for this conversation, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Milin, can you answer one more question for me before
Yeah.
we go? What
Yeah.
is, yeah, bro, what's the meaning of life according to Milin Patel?
Simple. Just hydrate the imagination, hydrate each other's imaginations, and just be connected, be kind, calmer, and just be the best that you can be every day, and be kind to each other. That's it. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And your hydration imagination, tell us about that. Is that your business? How do you have merch? What tell people about the identity there with your concept?
Yeah, so hydrate the imagination was just like a term that I used. So I've got it trademarked, but it's just what I use. And when I say it, people are like, yeah, love it. So I've got like water as unique as you, aqua tastology, hydrate the imagination. Like everything that I've been doing is very organic. I'm not in it to be like making a huge amount of money. What I do during my day job as a water consultant pays the bills, and everything like that. What I do outside with the water education elements, I do because I enjoy it, and I enjoy inspiring people to look at water differently to create a better future. So yeah, it's just a hobby, a passion that at first people were laughing. They were like, what the hell are you doing? Right? I said, I don't care. You can laugh, whatever. But some people started to listen to it, enjoyed it. And I had my first big break on a British TV live. So they called me up and they were like, oh, we heard you're the water sommelier. And I thought it was one of my friends. I was like, yeah, whatever. Put the phone down. And then they
Was this the one
invited
with the
me.
two women? I'm sorry to interrupt. I think I might have watched it. That have two women. It was very high produced. One was had blonde hair. One had black hair.
That was like my third live
Okay, okay.
TV.
Yeah, it was like
So,
3 minutes, and you handled them well, because they all water, blah blah blah. But
mate,
like, dude, you crushed it.
so when I like this is the British media, like on the first one that I did, they were like, and I knew they just wanted me on TV going, ha ha ha,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I was like, you're playing with the wrong guy. So
bro, totally.
I'll send you the link for the first one.
Okay, okay,
I
I'd like
did,
to see that.
yeah. So, but just going back to the respect of water, when I was introduced live on TV, no rehearsal, no nothing, just threw me out there. Hi, it's Milin Patel, the water sommelier. What did those two, Josie and whatever her name did? They laughed. So where's the value of water? Like someone, you know, that and I remember it was just a laugh, and I thought, okay, let's go.
Man, dude, I'm so happy you kind of came back to, because that was really the heart of my previous question a couple ones
Mm,
ago. It's like when you enter the room and the people are laughing, like as a person, how do you come back from that with the speaking? Because you know a lot of people are afraid to speak, and you got to be passionate about whatever you're talking about to speak effectively.
Yeah,
So like
it's
tell us a little
yeah,
bit about your jujitsu there.
yeah. In my mind, like genuinely, I'm like walking into it, no rehearsal. I don't know what's going to come at me, but in my mind, I am like, I have one job to do, and that is to inspire and change people's perception on water. If you like it or not, you are going to walk away with a thought in your mind about water. And I just go into it, just go into the OG mode and just go. Yeah. A bit of breathing exercise as well helps.
Oh yeah. So what do you do? What I want to know.
Oh, just I pick up my kids and just deep breathe out for a minute or two, go live, boom. And I
Do you
didn't do
like
this for the
use your nose or
yeah. No, so just deep breathing, and like genuinely in my mind, I'm just like, look, I've got a job to do. I'm very fortunate that I've got myself in this position, and just be honest, be truthful, have some fun, and inspire. Yeah.
thank you.
No, thank you for connecting like this. Like when I see you reach out, I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And then the more I done it, I thought, you know what? I am so looking forward because we were supposed to do this like next week, but I got too eager. I was like, no,
Yeah, you gotta
like,
knock it out. Like I might get
yeah,
hit by a
yeah,
bus.
for real, and it's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it, and I did say I'm going to go deep, and your platform has allowed me to go deep into these conversations because some like, just don't get it, but from your work and everything, like how we connected, I like even before I started, I said I feel so comfortable on this call of just being free and just having great conversation and elevating the importance of water. So thank you so much.
Well, Milin, I'm confident that this podcast will go into the future as a humongous educational tool that people will share with their family and friends to elevate their mindset to a higher degree with a substance that they probably have running free and clear out of their tap. So
Yeah,
thank you again.
not a problem, not a problem. Look forward to the next one for real.
And listeners, thank you for listening. Please make sure to follow, like, and subscribe. I will have Milin Patel's information down below as far as his Instagram, Hydrate the Imagination on Instagram. That I have that correct at
Yes, yeah.
yep. And there we go. That is episode 44 of Speaking from Water. I'm your host, Sean Ruttkay. Thank you very much. We'll check you out next time. Peace.
Peace.